A couple months ago, I attended the TRICS convention. In this video, I'm going to be telling you all about it, my experience there, and you can help figure out for yourself if you want to go to the next one. First off, you need to know what actually is the TRICS convention. Well, the TRICS convention is a convention held in North Carolina. It's actually in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they have it at a hotel where it lasts from, it says Thursday to Saturday, but it's pretty much just Friday and Saturday. Thursday is really just the evening and kind of hanging out with people. You see like one lecture. Everybody's just kind of settling in. So it's really like 2 full days. The most attractive part about the TRICS convention for a lot of people is that it's a lot smaller convention than a lot of the other conventions that you go to. But everyone there really enjoys being there and wants to jam with everyone. So I felt like it was a really intimate environment to be in, and the jam sessions are definitely probably the biggest part about it. Now that you know what the TRICS convention is, let's talk about some more questions you may have, such as what were the positives and negatives from it? What did I like the best? What did I like the least? How were the lectures? All that kinds of stuff. First off, I want to say this was my first TRICS convention, so I really didn't know what to expect at all. I didn't realize how many people were actually going to go that I actually knew. I would text people and be like, hey, are you going to TRICS? And they would be like, yeah, I'm going to TRICS. And I was like, really? Like, is it that popular? And they're like, oh yeah, like a lot of people end up going. I'd say there's probably almost 200 people there, which is quite a lot for a hotel lobby and like a little ballroom and another room for the dealer room. So you pretty much just take over the hotel for a couple days. A few of the lectures they had were Jackie Yu, David Regal, they had Michel Huot, and I love him by the way, he's great, he's hilarious, and I love his style of magic. They also had Terry Ward, Greg Wilson, Boris Wilde. They had plenty of people to keep you occupied while you were there, and they also had a lot of people outside in the lobby area jamming the whole time, which is what I was mentioning earlier, and I'll tell you more about what I thought about that in 1 sec. How's the dealer room at the convention? I'd say there's probably about 6 to 7 dealers there. There wasn't a ton of people there for dealing. I mean, there was a smaller dealer room than obviously a bigger convention like Magic Live or Magi Fest. It's not even on the same scale because there's just 2 entirely different conventions. I gotta say hey to Brent Braun and his wife Stephanie, and I spent way too much money at their stand for brick and mortar magic. If you don't know JB Magic and all that stuff. I got to see Benny Chickering, or Benny Chesterfield, as he's better referred to by the Penguin emails that they have sent out before. And I also got to meet some dealers I didn't know about before I attended the convention, so it was nice to see some new faces and see some new products. Pat's Mats was there. I had never heard of Pat, but a lot of people had, and everyone loved him, so I bought a close-up mat from him. It actually folds. I actually have it sitting in front of me. I will show you it right now. It's got this, it folds up so you can put it in a backpack, but then it unfolds, and this thing is perfect. I mean perfect for jamming at a convention. I will say, it smells slightly weird, but I think I don't know if it's because like of the glue or this backing that they used, but it doesn't smell, it doesn't like stink up the room or anything. It just smells weird when you smell. I don't know why. I mean, I noticed it because when I first got it, it smelled like stronger, but the longer I like hadn't let it air out, it's kind of gotten rid of it some. But I think it's the glue, but oh well, it's fine. It doesn't smell terrible. It's just a weird smell. But yes, this is it. I'm going to be carrying it in my book bag at all future magic conventions, most likely, if I want to, you know, basically pop out the close-up mat and have a jam session with somebody, just sell them some stuff, or maybe they want to show me some stuff, you know, you got a close-up mat on you, which is super cool. The lecturers themselves were pretty good. Greg Wilson did, I think he was like a last-minute replacement, so he basically did like a dealer demo lecture and taught like one trick in it that you could take away and learn. So he said, you can't say this is a dealer demo lecture only because I taught you something, which was fine. I mean, ultimately, like, love Greg Wilson, love his stuff. And the really cool thing that I liked about it was they actually did a show at the end, which I will get into this a little bit later, but they did a show to laymen, and you got to see how they actually worked in front of them, and I'll touch on that in just 1 second. Most of the lectures weren't just dealer demos. I mean, obviously, every one of them was selling something at the end, so they would do a little pitch throughout. But, I mean, you can't blame them. I mean, I love buying from the dealers afterwards because you get to see how a lot of the stuff works. You actually know if it's for you before you purchase it, which I love. It kind of eliminates the point of reviewing magic if you're at a magic convention, because a lot of people just show you how their trick works. If you can't make it at home, they'll just show you, and then you go buy it right afterwards because you're like, oh man, that was actually really good. And that's one of the things I absolutely love about magic conventions, but especially smaller ones. A lot of times it's more intimate, and a lot of people are willing to show more stuff and just kind of say, hey, this is what it is. If you want it, I'm selling it over here, whatnot. So I really did appreciate all the lectures there. I felt like they did a pretty good job. I did take away a lot of things from the lectures, but I wish I would have brought a notebook in there because I was just using my phone for most of it, and I felt like I was being a little rude because some people might have thought that I was maybe like just playing on my phone sometimes and I was taking notes. So I'm definitely gonna be taking a notebook to future conventions. My favorite part about the convention, besides the jam sessions, because those were fun, like I mentioned earlier, they were intimate because, you know, there's not a ton of people there. It's a decent sized convention, but it feels really intimate with having 200 people there. Everyone's pretty much jamming out in the lobby. You know, you see a lot of friends you know. A lot of people drive because it's just in like Charlotte. So Charlotte's kind of located like a few hours from a lot of bigger cities. So a lot of people came from like Raleigh and Atlanta and Tennessee, and even people came from Ohio, even though that was like an 8-hour drive. But I mean, people were coming from all over the place, and I was loving every second of it because I got to meet a lot of people in person that I hadn't met before, but I knew online. And I also got to meet a lot of new friends. Everyone there was really easy to talk to. I will say that Scott Robinson absolutely organized a very good convention as far as the organizational aspect of it goes, and also the friendliness aspect of it. I felt like anytime that someone was kind of wandering around looking lost, if Scott was in the area, he would usually say hey to them or say something like the first time I was there, the first evening, I was just walking around the dealer room because my friends hadn't gotten there yet. And Scott walked up to me and said, "Hey, how's it going?" I was just walking around the dealer room and I was like, "Oh, it's going well, you know, just looking around." And Scott was like, "Do you do YouTube videos? Like, do you do magic reviews?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And he's like, "I've watched your videos." And I was like, "What?" And it was a crazy moment because I didn't know that Scott knew I existed, which is cool. So I enjoyed that and got to talk to him about that for a little bit. And also his brother's into WWE wrestling stuff, and I'm also into wrestling, professional wrestling. I love watching wrestling. So I talked to him about that later on in the convention because I didn't find that out right away. I found that out towards the end, but I got to talk to him about that, and that was super fun. Scott is very prompt about timing, so make sure you're on time to the lectures because Scott definitely runs a tight shift. He is going to make sure everything starts on time, not a minute before, not a minute after. It's starting on time and it's ending on time, so be prepared to have a watch on you. That's my number one piece of advice. Bring a watch to the TRICS convention because you will need it so you don't miss any convention lectures. It's also kind of a running joke throughout the convention that Scott does run a tight shift. Like, everyone knows that Scott's very much like, we're starting on time, so people make jokes about it throughout the weekend, and it was fun to kind of, as soon as I got there, I realized, hey, this guy, he means it when he says it's starting at 7, like it's happening. The weekend ended with a show from the performers that had been lecturing, and they put together this whole show where each of them did basically like a 5 to 10 minute set, and so it was like a hour-and-a-half show, I think. There was like an intermission and everything. And it's filled with laymen, and it's also filled with magicians. So a lot of the magicians choose to watch outside in the lobby, and they watch on a TV because they broadcast it to a TV that's out there in the lobby. And then behind you in the ballroom is where the laymen are that have tickets, and they're watching this, and they're actually seeing these lecturers perform that you just watched lecture the whole weekend. So you see how they interact with a lay audience. You see, you know, are they actually doing the things they said they did? And it was just really fun to see that because I don't usually see that at a magic convention because it's just filled with a bunch of magicians. You also have the option to watch the show in the room with the layman, which I ended up splitting it up. I did the first half outside with a lot of other magicians in the lobby, and then I did the second half in the show surrounded by the lay people and also some other magicians in there. And I think that that was a really good decision because I was happy I got to experience both sides of the show. Ultimately, the TRICS convention is a really fun and intimate convention, so if you don't really care about a large dealer room and you're just excited to see some pretty good lectures and you're really excited to spend a lot of time with a lot of friends or maybe even make a lot of new friends because you will, just a lot of intimate time jamming and then see a show at the end of all of it, then I highly recommend the TRICS convention. Scott's super good about organizing it and everything's just really, really well put together at the TRICS convention. So I highly recommend it. If you like all the things I've talked about, you're gonna love it. And if you want to watch another Magic Convention review, then you can check this video out. It is my review of the Magic Convention out in Las Vegas. It's Magic Live, and you can see what I thought of it and figure out if you're gonna be going to TRICS or Magic Live, or maybe both.